this was a very destabilizing experience because you can't describe it you can't explain to anyone what you're going through when things like this are happening. Because if you try and tell them about it, they just look at you like you're nuts. And so I think that was ultimately a big part of why I made the video, Contact 2020, because if I hadn't done that, I would have been isolated forever. I probably would have gone crazy. I started to approach something like insanity towards the end of that, and I only stabilized after other people watched the video and said that it made sense and that I was seeing something for real. If I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would have been okay.
And I think the connecting point is that the relevance of the word symbol, right? Like a symbol in the Matthew Peugeot sense is where everything is a symbol or something like that. You know, where everything, there's the potential, and then there's the form, or like the meaning or the identity that is informing, embodying, instantiating into that. And this union is what creates the symbol, right? And everything is like that. That's kind of what I was thinking about, how like embodiment might be a fundamental feature. Like it might be analogous to symbolism in a way, like or like maybe symbolism is just what we should be saying instead of embodiment. But how this shifts into technology is that where language and perception is this sort of thing. All of our words and all of the things that we write are symbols. Yes, I remember how it works now. So if you've watched the video on my channel called Garments of Light in the New Jerusalem, or Garments of Skin in the New Jerusalem,
not yet.
This video is very relevant, you know, because it kind of connects the forms idea to what we're talking about, in the sense that how it works is that the cup that is most attentive to the ideal of cupness is the one that will embody cupness the most and the best. Like, and this principle applies to everything, you know, where if we are, let's say our mind is attuned to how to be of service, the words that we say and things that we do will reflect that, you know? If you have how to be of service on your mind, you know, this belief will make it so that the things that you do and say will be relevant, you know, will be embodiments of that aim, because it's kind of inevitable. Like, you know, it's just, you're creating that context. So it's interesting to think about this in the context of language, where, in my opinion, I think you can make a strong case that, you know, the words that we say and the things that we do are always windows into the aims, emotions, and inner life of the other person, right? So if I smile, right, this is a symbol, like a word, that you are reading, and you can read this better or worse. And as you read this, you know, it allows communion between us, you know, because it allows you a window into my inner life, you know. And we can also become better or worse at becoming transparent in this respect, in the sense where, like, you know, I can use this technology in a bad way, just like a hammer, you know, to kill someone or to build a house, right? Where you can imagine a news broadcaster, you must be alarmed, you know, or like, you know, Donald Trump, you know, it's like, you know, so all this technology is, you know, you can use this to mislead people or to abstract people, or you can to not reflect your true inner state. But we, as you know, if we allow this to be the case, you know, I think it's where I'm reminded of the Transfiguration or something like that, where, you know, something of beauty is shining through you, you know, and you become transparent to like the pattern of reality. So basically, I think that this technology is like already here. You know, I think it's already here and it's active, and it actually is foundational to all of our interactions, you know, where if we did not have the ability to read these symbols on other people's gesture, you know, intonation does the same thing, we would not be able to like meet each other, you know, like, and I think the moments in most people's lives where they can think about what are the most meaningful, significant moments in my life, it's where we truly see someone and they truly see us and we truly meet. And, you know, it's when you say, I see what you mean, you know, I see it. I'm running out of Windows X, so I would like to hear what you have to say, if you don't mind. Do you mind if I run and grab some water real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks.
Have you ever seen a transfiguration?
Probably not at the same degree as, you know, the one we all speak about. But I think that these principles apply to everything. Like, I think it's always, we're always all transfigured of the aim that we are attending to. You know, I've never seen the glory of God shine super brightly through someone, but I have seen instances where like somebody is possessed by some noble aim, and it shines through their actions and their facial expressions. I think that this is just how communication works in general. It's also like it's the thread of who you are. Like, it's kind of like the logos of you, like the form of you. It's like your soul or something, where as I attune to you and read the symbols in a more balanced way, you know.
What about a magician? What about a magician or people who do dark arts, where they attempt to conceal their motivations, intentions, and have some kind of a skill in doing that?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there are people like that, right?
This is the case.
Yeah. So that's where, for me at least, it can be difficult to discern people who have a lot of skill at being manipulative.
Yes, and this is why I'm trying to this is part of the reason I'm trying to raise awareness about this dynamic, is that, you know, if we attend to these symbols more sincerely, you know, I think these things become clear. I think it's, you know, it's the sword of truth, you know, cuts away the lies, you know, and that's part of the reason, part of the things that led me to understand this is like realizing that I was, you know, I was in the grips of someone who does, you know, it operates in that way, and but I began to realize by attending to the difference between their gesture and their words, you know, like somebody can say something, but if you're truly attending to them, you can see that's not what is actually going on, you know, like there's more to this. And so that's part of it. So I agree, you know, like this is a danger, you know, and I try my best not to misuse this technology, you know.
So yeah, I would point at that. So who are the heads of the systems in the world where decisions are made about what is medicine, what is education, what is food, what is justice? Like, who are these people, and are they having conversations like this where they might reveal the hypocrisy, inconsistency, contradictions between...
I'm reminded of the French leader took off his watch. I'm not sure if you heard about that. He's in some interview and he took off his watch because he like thought it was like too showy or something. Like in the middle of the interview, he like did it under the table or something. And it's like, oh, I see that. Now I see like, oh, I understand what was, you know, like what's really operating behind the scenes here. So the question becomes, how do we read these symbols better, and how do we also become more transparent in this respect, right? And I think what comes to mind for me is that it's a balance, right? There's two sides to this.
The blind are those who feel the world, but can't see it. The mad are those who see the world, but can't make sense of it. The first mind tunes the world out. The second mind hallucinates. Most of us lean one way or the other, ignoring reality or twisting it. But the further we lean, the more deluded we are. If we were to map the space between these modes, the map would look something like this. At the very top is what the angel called true vision. This is when we only ignore what ought to be ignored, see what must be seen, and the meaning we perceive is not misleading. You enter a kind of divine dance with reality and always end up in the right place at the right time. If we return to the cosmogram, we find the moon on the left and the sun on the right. Between them, an iris and pupil. A third eye, right where a forehead would be. This is an eclipse, both eyes at once. The eye of God, which witnesses all. To be one-eyed is to have one eye which lets in nothing, and one eye which lets in everything. An eye of darkness and light, of restriction and generation, of Saturn and Jupiter, of blindness and madness.
And you use the word signal, like there's a signal where we can perceive a signal in the other. And I think that's a good word because it brings into this the signal to noise ratio type of thing, right? So I think when we find the balance and we are able to receive, or when we are able to see things truly, then we, the signal, there's like a spike in the signal, and the resonance between the people increases, and that is when we meet each other, and then, so I think that is partially the task, in terms of the observer, that is the task. And then on the other side of the question, there is the, how do we become more transparent in this respect, and I think it's not necessarily about becoming more transparent, because I think that these things always are pouring through our gesture, right? We are always an embodiment of what has the most gravitas to us, what we are most drawn by, or something like that. And so it's more so a matter of aiming at the right things, being drawn by the most things, by the greatest things, and truly being drawn by them. When we are truly when we submit to our aims, they shine through us. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like where if you are truly attending to God, it will shine through you, or something like that, I think of it as a pre-cultural thing. Like this biologically evolves in us, and this is deep in our bones, this technology. And the thing about spoken language is that we have how many words for emotions, and like I'm happy, I'm sad. And it's really not an exhaustive list, particularly in English, and there are each emotion, each individual state, is unique, and to try and categorize them, is, I think, impossible personally. Like, I think where obviously like there are useful categories like happy, sad and stuff, but at the end of the day, like it's a impossible thing to do, in my opinion. And I think that with this nonverbal language technology, we see an infinite span of symbols, where like you in this moment right now, like, there's a certain thing that you are experiencing or something, that I cannot, that I can only try to describe with words. At the end of the day, like words do not exhaust the depth that can be tapped by a true attention to you,
I feel like you're encouraging me to try to use the tools that I've been born with to do this, and I see that as good. We do need to be able to practice using those tools, with our children and our families, with our neighbors, and maybe it's good if we get out and just try to develop those tools and those relationships. Yeah,
because it's a balance between like using the tools. It's like almost a Taoistic type of thing, where like we have to come into accord with this technology and or find a right relationship with it, where it's like, on one hand, you can use it consciously, like the news broadcasters and like advertisements, stuff like that, and or you can use it to manipulate somebody, or to hide your true, even it can be an innocent intention, that leads.
You could be having a bad day, and
yeah,
you still have to go make money and try to be of service, even though you're not going to do as well, or maybe you're hungry.
Yes, restaurant servers know this technology well. Yeah, and and on the other side, like we can be completely unconscious that this is a thing, that this dynamic is at play, and I think it's, it is kind of like a Taoistic thing, like learning how to conform to our deeper music that's playing through us and allow it to play through to dance with it. Oh yes, so there's a part of this that we're forgetting, all right? And this is the part where part of like what this is like, agape, right? Like this is very relevant to what I'm saying, where to truly see what you mean, I have to embody it myself, like I have to put myself in your shoes and like imagine what it's like to be you in this moment, and recognize like you have a world and a life of your own, and like this is relevant, like this makes the signal spike as well,
Yeah, I guess, how does it scale to New Jerusalem?
We hear apocalypse and we think about, the world exploding and like, but, if you look at the etymology of the word, it means unveiling or revealing or removing of the veil, This technology is all pervasive, like this, I don't think about this as something that like we have to build and spread. I think of it something that like people will mimetically realize, like people will realize that this is the case already. I think the veil that is removed is like the veil between us. And to some people, that's the end of the world. To some people, it's like, oh shit, all my lies will not be seen, but to other people, it will be the New Jerusalem. We are called to this true vision and we are called to this transparency, but on the other hand, I think it's inevitable.
To me, that's a different kind of prophecy than, oh, well, there's going to be this Seal of God device, because I can see, I showed my wife, here's a video of 3 years ago of people in China putting these devices on the kids' heads and watching their attention and their concentration. And I wasn't even aware of that, but I came across it, basically the next day after I had said something about Seal of God device, and it's just,
wow, that's really interesting.
So there's a difference between that kind of pattern. Like another one was, I said, that airlines need to charge fat people more money, and then years later airlines started charging fat people more money. It's like, well, that was just a pattern, because it just makes sense, like literally it makes sense.